really follow your dream and don't let yourself be put down by limiting beliefs that others have of you.
Welcome to a new episode of Charlotte in Red, featuring character layout artist and animator Tanja Majerus. Tanja and I attended primary school together, and it was pretty clear already back then that there was something special about her, something of an artistic aura. Yet, her path from Luxembourg to LA was not without hurdles and setbacks. Walt Disney once said that all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. As you will hear and see, Tanja definitely dared, persisted, and succeeded.
It's more like following your parents' dream, you know. Not even dream, but what they think that you should do. So that's why I went into the lycée Michel Lucius, and doing biology of all things. That was really not my thing. And it was not a good choice for me, that definitely. I was very misplaced, and it was many years of, I would say, suffering, because I couldn't really live what I wanted to do. The first one was proposed by a friend of mine, and it was into a rental car dealership. And I go home and I was kind of pretty depressed, and I thought, okay, well, this is not gonna happen. I had a bigger vision for myself. This is not it. So, but they literally called. They really wanted to have me, and I was like, no, thank you. My father was furious. But lo and behold, 2 weeks later, I got another offer, and this was with a jaw surgeon, where I would have been his assistant, so just 3 days in a week working, and much more pay. And I called him up, I'm here, can we start? And he was like, oh, I totally forgot to ask you, did you ever dissect mice at school? And I was like, no, because everybody was scared to do that. Yeah, but then I have no idea if you actually can work with blood. And I was like, well, you know what? That's okay. I'm fine with blood. No, I can't. He said I can't. I have to be sure that you're not falling over. And so I didn't get the job. And then my father saw that I really did my best to get this job, and then finally he said, you know what, I'm okay now for you to go into art school. Mm-hmm. That's how I ended up at art school, and that's when I really started to become myself and be who I am. And it took a while, but yes. I could finally live the dream that I wanted to do. I had to restart from scratch, so I had to go back 2 years to be able to get into the program. Mm-hmm. What was pretty amazing to me was that anything I touched, any kind of competition we did, I always won either the first prize or the second prize. That was already like, whoa. Coming from an area where I failed all the time, here all of a sudden it just went really smooth. Yeah, that's when I won the first prize. With about 70 contestants.
Mm-hmm. Wow, cool.
And yeah, So there were a lot of famous artists in there too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When I won that, I cried.
Oh, imagine.
It was really great to see all my posters everywhere.
Yeah.
In whole Luxembourg. That was fun. So when school finished, I didn't want to stop. I just wanted to continue studying, and so I went to Brussels. And when I look at it now, it was not a good choice. Not a good choice for me, but I learned a lot. So it was 2 years of that, and it was again about failing at the end. I was at my final exams, and I sat in front of a teacher. It was an oral exam. And the teacher in the end, he said, you know, you passed, but I don't think you're fitting in this school. I don't think this is for you. And I was like, whoa, pardon me, why? And he said, well, because I think you don't have a personality. And I said, what? What did you say? Yeah, you don't fit here. And I was like, okay, well, what do you mean? I don't really get it. And then I asked him, so what do you see me doing then, if, you know? And he said, well, you would be a really good actress. And I was like, okay, well, this is interesting, but actress, you have to have a lot of personality to do actress. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. So I thought he was just, you know, he's just fooling around. But I go home and I wait for the results, and I failed. And I was just devastated. It's very special here for me. My grandfather, he was mayor here for 20 years. It's a long time ago. Even though I'm not, I never lived here, but all my vacations were here. And I experienced a lot here. I drove for the first time my bike, and I learned how to swim, and yeah. I came back to Luxembourg and I saw one of my really favorite teachers, and I told him the whole story, and he was like, well, this is really stupid. That's absolutely not you. He doesn't know you. So, but don't worry. Why don't you do this new branch that we have now, which was BTS, animation, BTS. And I was like, no, you know how old I am? I can't go back again. And he said, I'm sure that this is what you always wanted. So you always wanted to draw, this is it. 2 weeks later, I sat in the bench. What happened was we were in collaboration with the school in Paris. So they had a deal that the best students that came out of that school would have the opportunity to go into the second year of their program. And so I was one amongst them. And it was funny, last school project, someone from here approached me and they wanted a commercial for the opening of Topaz in Mersch. So I did a whole little clip that finally went. It was a theatrical release, so you could see it at the cinemas. Well, actually, in between, I went to. We had to do an internship, and I went to Berlin because I didn't want to go to Disney at that moment. That was kind of the trajectory that everybody was doing because of the close ties with Disney that the school had at that moment. And they proposed me a job, so I thought after coming back I would literally start there. But that's not how it went. I came back to Paris, did my year, still in the hopes to go back to Berlin because I loved Berlin. And then the people from London came. Back then it was this Steven Spielberg's studio. They came to, they already announced, just do 3 to 4 drawings for cleanup, and then we will choose who we want. So I did those. And so the guy came, Christophe Serrand it was, and he looked at my stuff, and right away he was like, okay, you're in. What I didn't know, I actually knew later on, he actually called his girlfriend in London and he said, hey, keep a place for Tanja. Tanja is with us. So she's not going anywhere, she's with us. So that's how I came to work on Balto. That was my first job at the age of 30.
Get your slobbering mouth off me!
Come on, let's go, Boris. We can cut around the back and catch the end of the race.
Oh, no. I'm a delicate country bird. I hate going into town.
Aw, come on. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, I was on the final film, the last film that Spielberg wanted to do in London. And so the whole crew, well, almost the whole crew did move to LA. And what was really interesting was I came, normally when you're hired in a studio, specifically in cleanup, you're hired on the lowest level if you never did it before. So normally that's in betweener in cleanup. But we got hired right away as assistant. So I was assistant maybe for 4 months, and then after that they bumped me up to key assistant. And that's unheard of. When I arrived in 1996 in LA, we did actually 6-month training period where we could literally really get into animation. But for some reason I got a complete block. And we also had courses for cleanup, and so I did that. I did a little bit of character design for myself and was studying the characters. Later on I understood that it was just the kind of characters that didn't suit me. It was just everything was too rigid. I was really astonished by not really going after what I wanted to do. Then all of a sudden there were 2 or 3 supervisors interested in me, and I had to choose. So it was either the main character, at that time it was Moses, it was Prince of Egypt, or it was Sephora with a younger supervising animator. And the other one was the one who recruited me for London. So he wanted me to have me on his team. And I was like, oh no, I don't make a choice. go and do your choice, because I can't make that choice. And so I was chosen for Sephora. And it was interesting because when you look now at the time frame, 4 months assistant, 3 months key assistant, then a big break, and so 6 months into training, that's when they made me a character lead.
Desert flower.
None!
No, wait! Be still!
Untie this rope! Can't you set me free?
Still!
Let me go!
As you wish.
I think I could even say it for everybody that was working on the project, that is Prince of Egypt,
Yes.
definitely. Prince of Egypt was our baby. I would say the project after that, El Dorado, I think with Shell was my character. Shell was kind of the same. And it was so much fun to work on that one. It was fun because it was less line mileage. Sephora had just way too much line mileage. Everything was dangling around. It was just like, actually, it was funny because Prince of Egypt, we have to tune it down because she couldn't be too sexy. But with Shell, we just...
It's all the way?
Pretty much. As DreamWorks started to venture out into computer animation, and I didn't really want to be part of that because I still wanted to draw. That was a risk. That was a very big risk that I took, because everybody knew that the whole industry would go into computer animation. But I didn't want to. And so I worked a little bit on other films, like Curious George was one of them.
He'll have quite an appetite and a headache when he wakes up. This is really good. Huh?
I was freelancing a lot during 2-3 years about. And I was starting to get nervous. And in 2006, I thought, never gonna happen anymore. But then in 2007, I did a test for the company MGA Entertainment, and I got the job. And that's when I was working on the Bratz, which I thought was a whole different ball game because it's all toys and dolls, fashion, but it was actually pretty easy to get into that. I did not think that I had such an ease to venture into that area. It was a fun adventure. It was reaching into so many different areas. It was not just the character art for the packaging. It was also for licensing. So everything like from a cushion to bed sheets to. It was really fun. For me, I wanted to learn more, and at some point it wasn't enough anymore.
Yeah.
I started to get bored. So I was 8 years there, and they made me manager of our creative team. And I was like, that was really poor choice. I yes, I'm good at it, but I'm just like, that's not really, my aspiration. So I was four months manager, And then it was about the time where we had to, doing the reviews of my team.
Yeah.
I go there and my boss is sitting there with the HR person. And I was like, okay, what is that? And she is crying. And I was like, uh-oh, this doesn't look good. And so I sat down and asked what's going on. And so the guy was kind of explaining, going around the thing, and, well, this is your last day. And I was like, oh, how is that? You just made me manager. Well, we are just getting rid of the whole character art department. And as I was the boss, so I was the first one to be cut. But for me, it was welcome because I was absolutely ready. Even that same week, I saw a friend of mine who was working at The Simpsons. She was actually telling me, hey, you should come to us, and there's a place where you absolutely could fit in. And I was like, no way! I didn't do animation for so long. And so she was just saying, you know what, just think about it. I didn't think too long about it because I thought, hey, you probably won't make it, but just do the test and then you'll see. And so I reached out to producers and they were saying, okay, we're gonna give you the test. And I was waiting and waiting. During that time, I actually got a freelance job with Hasbro. It took about 3 months, and I was told that, okay, are you ready? And I was like, okay, what am I ready for? Well, can you come in to the studio? So they talked to me, and then I came into the studio with my portfolio, just thinking that, okay, I'm gonna get my test now. And that's not what happened. And I was taken around, and so this is where you sit. And I was like, hey, now we know that the test. I'm still supposed to do a test. Oh no. We saw that you can draw. It's not gonna be a big deal. And that's how it all started. I think both. Definitely both. But I have to say that I never 100% felt like a Luxembourger. I always felt kind of strange. It felt strange to be here. So once I stepped foot in LA, there was just that feeling, okay, this is where I belong. But I have to say, coming always back to Luxembourg, there is a familiarity here, and that's definitely not going away. I love this country, and I'm a part of it. Well, I have several projects, but one that is very dear to my heart, and which is a comic book series that Steve Ryan Mack and I are developing sporadically since a year now. And so in a way it's a sci-fi story that is kind of dealing with space and time, where we take some main characters through a psychological transformational journey. The story is still in its infant stages, so it's literally since the past 6 months that we kind of develop it more, and where we got it now to a point that we can start with the script. So the story plot is coming along. It's more like a philosophical approach to the body, mind, and spirit connection, where you actually going into the psychological and physical limits to raise above those and to become, in the end, a superhuman. I think the story, the first bit of the story is already down. I did already the script, and it starts with the death of our main character. It's going through the process of working on yourself, and each time you work on yourself, there's a part of you dying for rebirth after that. So that's in a nutshell, that's what it's all about. I think I would say really follow your dream, because and don't let yourself be put down by limiting beliefs that others have of you, because you yourself, you know who you are and what you can achieve, but don't listen to anybody else. And just not just dreaming, you know, really, because that's what I think is the most of the people are so limited in what they want to achieve. But for me, it was always like anything is possible. There are no limits. It's only the limits that you put on yourself or that come from other people.
Keep me going, keep me awake, and I wonder, meditate.